we're going to talk about the 18 years of innovation when it comes to Amazon S3. And we do have Paul here to talk to us about all of those things. Hello, Paul.
Welcome.
Welcome to the show.
Now we see our 18.
Yeah, now we see the 18. There's the number 18. We couldn't show it because we were trying to hide Paul. But yeah. Paul, tell us who you are, what do you do, and what is the best file system?
So my name is Paul Megan. I lead product management for S3 and Glacier. I don't have a strong opinion on the best file system. Darko, there's a lot of options out there. I tend to go with Object.
Object file, yeah. That's amazing. Amazing. Welcome to the show. Thanks. So, kick us off.
So S3 was launched 18 years ago. Can you talk to us about the innovation that occurred over these past few years?
You know, it's really interesting. I went as a part of researching for this because I thought you might ask me that. And I looked at the original press release that came out in 2006 when we launched. And it was all about just putting, the idea is that customers should just take storage for granted. And that's really the key innovation of S3 is that there's so much effort that goes in behind the scenes so that developers, through a simple web API, can just get access to durable storage, build it into their app, and then move on and do interesting things with the data. Instead of having to worry about provisioning it, how much they have available, keeping it safe and secure, and all of that effort that goes into making storage possible. The key innovation is just that is off of developers' plate and onto ours.
And that's actually a good point, right? Again, in the past, we used to really have to, we still worry about storage, but it was a lot bigger job. These days, with object storage, with Amazon S3, it's kind of like it just exists. We don't think about it too much, at least we as developers, right? So, which is just amazing. Now, speaking about Amazon S3, right? Simple storage service. What makes S3 so different?
There are a few things. I kind of think about what makes S3 different in sort of two categories.
Okay.
The first is its unique architecture under the hood. I think that's it's a big deal, and it's something that we've worked on since launch, right? And what's key to understand about S3 is it's a regional service, a true regional service. And so when you lay a bucket down in an AWS region, and you put an object in that bucket, we take your data and we spread it out across multiple availability zones. And so your data gets spread across multiple data centers. And then within each one of those availability zones, we spread out across multiple storage devices, right? And so this is sort of like, what we're doing is we think about the world in terms of that adage of everything breaks all the time. And so we're always storing data in such a way that there's no single point of failure that it can impact the availability or the durability of your data. It's really sort of the key innovation that Amazon S3 was born with. And that architecture allows us to do very interesting things and to really deliver on some key fundamentals, right? And that's kind of what we wake up every day talking about and thinking about within the team is how do we go raise the bar on the fundamentals, which in our minds are security first, job zero, durability, performance, availability, and scale, right? And so that's what we're out there trying to execute on every day is just to raise the bar on those fundamentals that the team's oriented to, and it all starts at that very sort of unique distributed architecture.
Yeah. You mentioned generative AI. You got into the core things, what we're thinking about. You said security is job zero, but at the top of the mind of everyone right now is generative AI. Right. So let's talk about what you've been seeing in the past few years recently and what is, becoming the standard for data lakes. Yeah.
So data lakes have been a very fascinating ride for us and for the industry as a whole. We were talking about this with the team the other day, and it really, we think about a few years ago at reInvent, I think the 2019 reInvent or something like that, we all came in and we've been working with data lakes for quite a while, but that was the year where every single customer wanted to talk about data lakes. They wanted to talk about how to take advantage of analytics at scale. Many of them weren't doing it yet, and it was just notable, almost like a switch went off, and all of a sudden, every customer wanted to talk about it. And so if you think about 2019 to now, almost 5 years, so much has happened in the data lake space. So much innovation on the query engines, both within AWS and in open source. We have the rise of open table formats like Iceberg and Delta. Just so much has happened. So great customers and partners have really done some very interesting things. And so many customers now rely on their data lakes to make good decisions and really to drive their business forward. And so it's really been an amazing ride over the last several years to see what's happened with data lakes, for sure.
So like this is when data lakes were kind of first entering my consciousness a few years back, I didn't understand what that was. Like, was this a specific service on AWS? Is this like, is this a data warehouse? Is this something more complicated? No, it's Amazon S3. And you will see a lot of these things where Amazon S3 has this innate feature to itself of being such an underlying foundation to a lot of things we do on the cloud. Right? A lot of AWS services rely on S3. A lot of the stuff you take for granted are actually on S3, including those things such as data lake, because where else are you going to store petabytes of data? So yeah, that's amazing.
It's like, if you think about, if you're old like me, and you've seen the changes in the industry over time, like it fundamentally changes the assumptions that we make about how we store our data. And then I think customers catch on to that over time, and all of a sudden you look up and technology looks different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
You mentioned partners and customers and what they're doing, and so we've seen over the years, right, the broadest set of the broadest set of ecosystem of integrations from the AWS marketplace to specific customers, and even other AWS services like Redshift. Is there any customer that stands out to you?
I mean, I spend a lot of time with customers, and one of the coolest parts about being involved with S3 is you get to go from customer to customer and talk to a bunch of cool customers doing interesting things in the cloud. For me, one of my favorites right now is, because it's spring, which in my life means Little League softball. And what I like to do with my Little League softball team, because I'm a coach, is I like to do like merch and flyers, stuff like that, and to kind of make the kids feel like professionals. And for that, I use Canva. Canva is just an amazing app for this sort of thing. It really empowers folks like me who don't have much artistic talent to make T-shirts for the team and stuff like that. And so Canva's a big S3 customer, and hundreds of petabytes on S3, and they've done a lot of innovation to really wring a bunch of cost out of storing hundreds of petabytes that they deliver out to millions and millions of users who are creating billions of designs. And then on top of that, they've done some really innovative things with Gen AI over the recent years to make it even easier for folks like me to go, make flyers for the upcoming softball tryouts and stuff like that.
That's the output,
really cool.
Right? That you see, you get to make the kids happy. It's a beautiful shirt or a flyer or something. You don't have to think about that. But at the same time, you're kind of marrying the two, because you know that there are petabytes of data on the back end stored in buckets.
That's what it takes to make me look like a good artist. Petabytes and petabytes of data.
I mean, so of course, Canva, hard. Beautiful. Thank you, Canva, for being what you are. You made me also able to do graphics design. No, but I think this is very important. Chat. You need to understand the scale of S3, right? We say petabytes of data. Do you know how many floppy disks that is, right? That's a lot of data for a single customer. I don't know. I don't think we have a public number of how much data is stored on S3, but it is an insane amount of data. So understanding the scale of it and the complexity behind it of such a simple storage service is very important. Chat, I have a question for you. Drop it in the chat. Can you tell me the most obscure feature of S3? That's gone now, it's gone. But please drop it in the chat what your thoughts about the most obscure feature of S3, and I'm gonna let you know in 5 minutes what that is, so do not go anywhere. Now, I'm not sure if you know, Paul, what I'm talking about.
I think I probably do.
You probably do, okay, we'll figure it out. So now, S3 has a bunch of innovations you talked about. We have like a lot of stuff coming up. We had a big reinvent last year, right? What are these new things that came from Amazon S3 that you tend to like?
Yeah, so we've done a lot over the last several years on helping customers reduce their storage costs with new sort of infrequent access storage classes, like our Glacier Instant Retrieval storage class. We have intelligent tiering that automatically tiers your data down to save cost on storage. When data cools off, it automatically goes down to cooler tiers to reduce your storage bill. At reInvent, though, we kind of went the other way this year, and we introduced a new high-performance storage class called S3 Express OneZone. OneZone delivers a consistent single-digit first byte latency. It's for those compute-intensive or high-transaction applications that need that just really, really fast access to data. So It's a nice addition to sort of what you can do with S3, and we're very excited to see customers take advantage of it.
Awesome. Jasmine.
Paul, so what's the next innovation that's coming?
Well, I mean, we're here today to talk about Gen AI,
Yep.
and it really feels like we're in that moment, very similar to where we were with data lakes that I talked about several years ago in the 2019 timeframe,
Yeah.
right? Like every customer we talk to wants to understand about what this new wave means to them, and across AWS we're focused on figuring that out with customers on what this all means. And so there's a ton of work going on, a ton of conversations. And a lot of roadmaps being formed as we figure out what customers want on
Yeah.
this.
And this is actually critical. So in the wonderful world of 2024, we keep talking about generative AI up to our ears. And storage is a key part of that, right? To train such huge models, to fine tune, to pre-train, to augment them. You need a lot of storage. So storage is critical, right? You mentioned S3 Express One Zone. That is one of the most important aspects of being able to properly train your models, right? What kind of problem does S3 Express One Zone solve when it comes to generative AI?
Sure. So training often involves many petabytes of data, huge data sets, but not always. A lot of times those data sets can be smaller, and it's not wrangling tons and tons of data that's the problem to go solve in some training scenarios, but rather keeping the GPUs busy, right? And so when we have these training jobs that are high transaction with lots of objects, and we're spinning up these high-end GPUs to go process and train as quickly as we can, that's when that low latency storage makes a ton of sense and makes a huge difference on training times, and therefore cost and value and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing.
Paul, I think we have we might be, coming to the end of our time here. It's been very sweet so far, but we talk about, data, and people have old data, it's archival, it's traditionally, data that is locked away, put in a vault, never used again. Yeah. Can you tell us how S3 Glacier transformed traditional archival storage, like some of the things that we see here?
Absolutely, I'm a huge Glacier fan. I love Glacier.
Glacier is hard.
So it's true, most of the data in the world is actually cold. And often customers think about that as, I have to store this data, I'm worried about deleting it, I'm going to squirrel it away and never touch it again. But there are lots of ways to put that data to work, and that's really what we're trying to help customers do. So first, by making it very cost effective to store data for long periods of time, to keep it around. And second, to bring data back and put it to work. And so we've done things like enabled you to query data from Glacier via Athena. We've done a bunch of work on the restore path for Glacier to make restores faster and easier to run. And there are a bunch of cases where we're now starting to see customers hydrate big data sets out of archive, run training jobs, and then drop it back down to archive. It's sort of a periodic annual training in these sorts of workflows. So it's just a great complement, those cold data sets, to what's already in the lake. And just, we love Glacier, it's awesome.
Yeah.
The point is, store your data on the cheap with Amazon Glacier. I'm not sure that's the tagline of Amazon Glacier, but
it's not dark.
It's not. But yes, that is definitely the case. Okay, we're about to wrap up, but chat, what's the most obscure feature on Amazon S3? Did you know, up until recently, you can download files from S3 using a BitTorrent system? There we go. You're welcome. Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks,
Amazing.
Paul.